Getting a call from a desolate phone booth within the first 10 minutes that simply says Oberon must die is a game that will certainly grab your attention. In addition to this intrigue, there are no quest markers or handholding in Atomfall. It relies on the player's investigation skills and exploration. Set in a quaint alternate reality northern English town, you are tasked with discovering the mystery that lies at its heart. Whether this mystery will reveal itself to be a horror or a revelation is yet to be determined. Sniper Elite developers Rebellion have created something not in their usual wheelhouse here, but did they manage to keep this level of interest throughout the game's runtime? What's up? How's it going, people? Welcome to Casual Gamer Reviews. If you want to see more of this content, please consider leaving a like and subscribe, as it really helps the channel. I spent 20 hours with Atomfall and saw 2 of its 6 endings, reviewed on Xbox Series X. I have been interested in Atomfall for a while due to it showing glimpses of similarities to my favorite immersive sims. In reality, Atomfall is a survival detective game. Think Stalker 2 meets Pentiment. In terms of the gameplay, I had many ups but also many downs. Let me start with the bad and then lift it back up with what I love. The combat in this game is dreadful. The player character can find several weapons out in the world that can be either gun or melee weapon. The various guns fall into categories based on their bullet types: pistol, SMG, shotgun, and rifle. The melee weapons are quite fun and quirky to start, as you can find a cricket bat, an axe, a club, an electric baton, and so on. But this fun did not last. These can all be thrown too if you want to finish someone off at a distance or just chuck and run to escape. Due to this game's heavy leaning on survival elements, bullets are extremely scarce, meaning the majority of the time you will be using melee weapons. While the guns felt fine and were serviceable, the melee combat was bad. The swinging animations were clunky, the depth perception felt completely off, and most of all, the damage output was just not worth it. You take so much damage from any enemy in this game, no matter the difficulty, and because you are limited to this awful melee combat a lot of the time, I just tried to avoid it. The problem is though, there are so many enemies, especially in 2 areas and towards the end. I tried to lean on the stealth mechanics, which boil down to hiding in tall grass or shadows, or just crouch sneaking behind someone. 95% of the time, someone will see you, as there is just too many enemies. It's frustrating, it's tedious, and quite frankly, it soured the game significantly for me. What confused me with this is that it is completely avoidable. If this game focused more on its strengths, as I will get into later, this amount of combat just seems completely unnecessary, regardless of it being engaging or not. As I just mentioned, you take a lot of damage regardless of the difficulty setting, and this can be from environmental factors, not just adversaries. This was implemented much better as it factored into the exploration. You can be exposed to radiation, infection, burn, poison, and bleed. Healing and status effect relief are all scarce too, as this is a survival game after all, but the more you explore, the more you will find items or materials to craft these items. The crafting system is relatively simple but very fitting for what is needed, and I was happy that it wasn't more complex. Throughout the world, you will discover recipes for craftable items. These are numerous, and several items even have multiple recipes out there, as I discovered duplicate ones, which is nice as it means less people will miss out. Each item takes basic components to craft, and these components are scattered in fairly large quantities about the place, so exploration is often rewarded. This game does not pause when you craft though, which does really add to that tone of desperation, which was a welcome touch. In addition to the crafting menu, there is also a skill tree of sorts. The skill tree is split into 4 sections of 9 skills apiece: ranged combat, melee combat, survival, and conditioning. There was nothing particularly out of the ordinary here, with things like health and stamina boosts, attack damage increases, deeper ammo capacity, and so on. The skills themselves are unlocked through a consumable that you must discover in the world, but they must first be found. Much like the crafting recipes, you will occasionally find a page that contains a group of skills. This will then add them to the skill tree to be unlocked. This approach is definitely unusual and one I didn't appreciate at first, but it did grow on me, as once again this all services the exploration, which I think is by far the game's greatest asset. If Rebellion made this game all about the investigation and exploration, I could honestly say that I would have enjoyed it far more. You are thrust into this world immediately with the briefest of tutorials and left to fend for yourself. The mystery is presented to you in a creepy phone call and off you go on your way. As I said at the top, Atomfall uses no quest markers and minimal map indicators. The world is beautifully crafted with plenty of hidden areas, puzzles, ruins, and caves. Exploration can be rewarded with rare crafting resources and items, training stimulants to buy skills, crafting recipes, skill books, but most interestingly, pieces of information. Littered throughout Atomfall are scraps of paper with tidbits of the mystery, and each note can be added to an ongoing investigation thread. In your investigation screen, you can see all the active threads you have, and each note found or verbal communication had with a character will be filed away amongst one of these. Due to the lack of handholding, you really need to read these and listen to what people are saying to figure out where you need to go, and prioritize things you think will be most helpful. What's great is that a good amount of these leads will just end unsuccessfully, which makes you feel like you truly are trying to unravel a grand enigma. It was this ongoing mystery coupled with the genuinely engaging exploration that Atomfall does best. The experience of having multiple paths through an environment to get to an objective is equal to some of the greatest immersive sims. The feeling when investigation threads start to overlap and come together is very satisfying, and the distress of scrounging for basic necessities you need to survive is incredibly fulfilling. If there was more of this content and combat was a rare occurrence, this review would be vastly different. There are a handful of tools you can use throughout your exploration: the flashlight, the metal detector, and the signal redirector. All three of these tools made the exploration that little bit more fun and intuitive. There are lots of caves and dark places that makes the flashlight infinitely useful. The metal detector adds that short burst of happiness as you get a prompt that effectively says treasure is close, and you dig up some loot to keep that serotonin level high. The signal redirector is your snazzy door opener that you use to hack your way through. It also disables turrets and turns lights on and off. What the signal redirector does best is it offers you alternative routes through an area, which in my opinion results in the best game designs. Inventory management is another mechanic that is front and center. You have very limited slots for items and weapons. Your two-handed weapons are restricted to 4 slots on either side of the main inventory screen, whilst everything else must be managed within the center. Due to this being a survival game, you need to juggle your healing items, status effect items, single-handed weapons, and quest items. There is a storage tube in some main areas, but I would only use this for quest items as they are not too frequent. 90% of the time, I absolutely hate inventory management and being over encumbered in games, but the other 10% is for games like Atomfall. The survival and slight horror elements are heightened by the panicking of trying to decide what to take and what to leave behind. The classic formula iconic titles like Resident Evil perform so well. Although you can't physically arrange the inventory like Resident Evil, I think Atomfall does still spark that sense of decision paralysis, which I thought complemented the game nicely. As I turn towards visuals, you will start to see a common theme developing. Some of the visuals in this game are simply delightful, whereas others are extremely poor. Starting with the bad again is character models and animations. Character models are very stiff and facial animations are expressionless. This is of course better with main characters, but some of the side characters were far less stylized. I spoke about the melee weapon animations being sluggish, but also the enemy animations can be jarring at times. For example, if I alert an enemy, I could go hide in a corner, and every single time that enemy would run and find me, but not stop in front of me, but run into me and clip through my character model, making it very hard to react. Now, this is a AA title, so you may want to take that with a pinch of salt, but I thought that it felt out of place, especially considering how amazing the environments and setting was. Being a British person myself, I had a very keen eye to how accurately Rebellion were going to portray a quaint English town. I have to say that I could not be happier with the result. Look at the picture here. I could not even begin to express to you how many pubs I have been to that are the spitting image of this. I verbally squealed when I came across this in-game. The buildings themselves were very true to reality. This estate here looks like so many I've driven past or visited on heritage tours. The brickwork and general architecture is just so spot on. There are so many other examples of this, whether it be the phone boxes, the road signs, the pavilion in the center of town, and even the chimneys. In addition to this, the environments are stellar too. There are areas of infected blue mushrooms which emit a grim beauty, or there are darker areas that are breached by some gorgeous lighting. I would also say some of the enemy types were well designed, especially the thralls who were chilling on every encounter. encounter. While the music is nothing that I would write home about, Atomfall's audio shines in its voice performances. While you play as a silent protagonist, the quarantine zone is filled with great voice acting and some unabashedly British phrases that I never thought I would hear in a video game. Every single time I heard the quote, "Someone's playing silly buggers," I could not help but crack a smile without fail. Whilst I'm not familiar with the actors here, the high quality of voice work definitely resonated with me. It wasn't all comical though, and the audio never loses its haunting tones. The clicking sounds of a feral that you can't see in a dark cave is always unsettling, but when you startle it and it lets off that bone-chilling screech, it's truly horrifying. Having said all that, I did get some really bad audio bugs. I lost count of how many times the audio just completely dropped off. Every single time this happened, the only way to restore it was to reboot the game, and sometimes it would happen again within 5 minutes of getting back into action. Sometimes it would be a full audio blackout where I couldn't hear anything. Other times it would be the music and voices, but not the sound of my feet scurrying along. Sometimes all I could hear were the voices. It was extremely frustrating. On top of this was the hard crashes. The game crashed out to the dashboard 4 times in my 20 hours, which is simply tiring. As an editorial, since the time of writing this, I understand that some more patches have been issued to address these problems, but I haven't been able to try them out to see if they've been resolved. The story of Atomfall is very much out there for you to discover. In fact, the whole premise of this game is for you to unravel the mystery. The foundations are laid as follows. There is a nuclear disaster in a part of northern England which causes the zone to be quarantined. You, a nameless individual, wake up in the quarantine zone with amnesia and must try to escape. You soon find that the only way to escape is to get to the root of the truth behind the disaster. You meet several characters along the way who will offer to help you, and ultimately the 6 endings result from you seeing one of these leads through to completion. The story is compelling throughout, and I always wanted to push through and explore to chip away at the secret. If I'm completely honest though, I was underwhelmed by my 2 endings I got. So much so that I looked up the other 4 endings on YouTube, and none of them I was particularly happy with. None of them round up the mystery or provide any sort of expansive conclusion to your adventure. Each is very surface level and are also portrayed in a slideshow of still images, which is disappointing. There isn't much in the form of collectibles in Atomfall. You can discover comic book strips which are fine, but not that interesting, and you can also discover the crafting recipes and skill books. None of these I would consider as your traditional collectible. There are a handful of side quests, or at a minimum leads that are disguised as side quests. Really though, everything ties back to the main story in some way or another through overlapping characters and outcomes. The main area of bonus content here would be the 6 endings, which will require multiple full or partial playthroughs, so there is a lot to be gained from this title. A survival game where you take the mantle of detective to unveil a great mystery that has quarantined a whole section of northern England is right up my street on paper. The exploration and discovery coupled with branching dialogues and multiple progression routes is where this game is truly top tier. The voice acting and British humour had me ecstatic as I scoffed my tea and Cornish pasties, but ultimately Atomfall stumbles hard in its combat, character models, story endings, and the sour taste of the many bugs. Given this is a Game Pass title though, I would still recommend it if you have a subscription with this service. Atomfall gets a casual gamer score of 7 out of 10. Check out the channel for more reviews, previews, and spoiler casts. I have a cool review for Citizen Sleeper up now, as I played it for the first time this year, so give it a look. If you enjoy this content, please consider leaving a like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of Atomfall, and for everything casual gamer, keep it here. Peace and love.